I do want to do the Tatum thing.
Okay.
Because I think that there are some things worth actually talking about with the Jayson Tatum conversation that people are like being obtuse about or whatever, right? So let's start here. Jayson Tatum over the last 3 seasons has played 3,500 plus minutes, all 3 of those seasons. This season, he won an NBA title, didn't really get a break, had to go right into Team USA stuff. I think there's a pretty real chance that Jayson Tatum was probably not at his best right now. Oh, by the way, just had a kid as well. Like, very, very, very real chance that Team USA might not have been getting the best of what Jayson Tatum can capably bring. Right.
And understandably so, right? Would we both agree? Like,
and that's not a
understandable.
slight on him. That's not at all a slight on him. That's the reality of what he's had to do because Boston continues to play deep into the season because of him, right? And because of Jaylen Brown and Derek White and everybody that has been on those Boston teams, Al Horford the last few years. Second piece of it. Who did you want him to play over? I mean this truthfully. So LeBron averaged 14, 7, and 8. Kevin Durant averaged 14 points, shot 58% from the field, 61% from 3. Devin Booker averaged 11 points per game, shot 56% from the field, 61% from 3. Jrue Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders on planet Earth. Averaged 8 points per game, shot 59% from the field, 50% from 3. Which of those 5, Anthony Edwards averaged 14 points a game, shot 6% from the field, 46% from 3. Jayson Tatum played 20 minutes per game in those 3 games that he played a ton of, right? So not including the France game. He averaged 6 points per game, shot 39% from the field, did not make a 3. Jason Tim brought up a really good point. So Synergy has access to all of the exhibitions the Team USA played as well. Jayson Tatum shot 0 for 18
interesting.
on jump shots over the course of his time with Team USA throughout the entirety of this thing. And again, that to me is not a slight on Jayson Tatum. This is a dude that probably doesn't have legs right now because his body has been kind of run through the ringer here over the last 3 years, especially this year where he didn't get a break, right? So I say all this to say, I don't think that Jayson Tatum was set up for success at this Olympics. I also don't think Steve Kerr did the wrong thing here by not playing him. Oh, by the way, when he was on the court, he was not great. The numbers you can look at, but I don't know. Like, I thought when he was on the court, Team USA was playing like a very, ball movement centric, share the ball style. And I thought he kind of held onto the ball a decent amount and kind of stopped it a little bit. And the game moved a little bit slower when he was out there. And again, that's not a slight on him. It's a comment on what Boston has had him become, right? They utilize floor spacing and shooting so extensively that he always has these massive driving lanes to be able to navigate and to be able to get to the rim, be able to get to the mid-range, everything like that. He has become much more of a slasher driver over the last couple of years, even than what he was when he was younger, right? Like, he can still make pull-up jumpers. I know it abandoned him over the last few years in the playoffs, or the last few months. I'm sorry, not last few years. Over the last few months in the playoffs and at the Olympics, but like, he's fine. You know what I mean? Like, he'll shoot it at some point again. Like, I'm not real worried about that. I felt like when he was in the game at the Olympics, the teams felt like they didn't have to worry about him as much as a shooter. And I felt like he kind of held the ball a little bit longer than what everybody else did out there because of what he is asked to do within the Boston offense, and having to rewire your brain on the fly in that way very quickly it's hard. It's really hard. So I don't think anybody did anything wrong here. I think Jayson Tatum, seemed like he was ready to go whenever his number was called. And I don't think Steve Kerr was wrong to not play him because it felt like they were better without him.
I'll listen to the conversation of Tatum playing over a few guys. I just don't think it's egregious. I don't think people should be up in arms that
Yeah.
Tatum was, you know what I mean? I'll listen to it. You think he should have played over Derek White? Let's have the conversation. You think in certain matchups he should have played over Bam and played him at the 4 or something?
So like
I'll listen
that's
to
the
it.
one. That's the one where it's like, okay, Team USA decided to play two bigs. Is their bench unit, right? They played Bam and AD together.
Yeah.
I will certainly hear out that you could have played Jayson Tatum at the 4 in that strategy. I think it's completely reasonable to do that. It's certainly what I would have started with if I was Steve Kerr as the coach. I'm not sitting here telling you that I, think that it's egregious that he didn't do that.
Yeah.
And on top of it, this is where the FIBA stuff does matter, right? This is where the rules matter. Given what I said about Jayson Tatum having become over the last few years more of a slasher, more of a driver to the rim, I think that the FIBA rule set probably was a bit more of an adjustment for him right now at this point in his career than it probably was for other players. People will go back and say Jayson Tatum, was incredible at the last Olympics, and he was their second best player very clearly behind Kevin Durant at their last Olympics. His role within Boston structure, I think, has changed pretty drastically over the course of that time. He has become more of a driving, slashing player over that time who tries to get to the rim a bit more often than what he used to be as more of like a pull up mid-range, pull up 3-point shooter. And I'm not sitting here saying that anybody is wrong for doing this. I don't think Tatum is wrong for having developed his game that way. I don't think Boston is wrong for utilizing him that way. But having literally just come from June, 20th or whatever, when the finals ended, playing this style of basketball, being more of like an interior driver, going into FIBA basketball where there's no defensive 3 seconds, where you can play two bigs and be a great rim protection team at all times if you want to be. I could see a world where that's a bit harder of an adjustment timeline wise for Tatum than it was for other guys. And on top of it, I can see a case where if he is not at his 100% best, having that rim protection out there that Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis together bring could be more valuable to you as a team in that specific setting. I think the FIBA rule set probably went against what Tatum has become over the course of the last couple of years a little bit more. He's going to be fine for the next Olympics. Like, it's just that whenever you already have this many ball dominant dudes out there, say, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, guys who are
Anthony
going to be
Edwards,
ready to
quite
go.
honestly, in the minutes he was playing a lot. Joel is a ball dominant big.
For sure. Joel is a ball dominant big, and Joel takes up a lot of space out there as well on the interior when he's there. So I don't think people should overreact to any of this. And like, he had that quote after, he was like, look, we'll see how it goes. Like, I'll have to see how I'm feeling in 4 years in terms of whether or not I play the Olympics. I think people should just like chill and like relax. Like, I don't think that I don't think that statement was, I'm not playing the Olympics, I'm pissed, I'm frustrated. I think Jayson Tatum was probably like, fuck, I've just played like 3 crazy long seasons in a row. I just had a kid. I just won my second Olympic gold medal. I don't want to think about 2028 right now. You know what I mean? So I think people have just like so drastically overreacted to this thing. And it's become like a very strange talking point to me.
Tatum also only played 8 less minutes than Derek White, 13 less total minutes than Joel Embiid in these Olympics. 13 total less minutes than Joel Embiid. And here's the thing, the FIBA, and I know we're going to talk about the FIBA rules in general. It's only a 40-minute game, Sam. And these are
Yeah.
dudes that are used to playing very long stretches of basketball before they get subbed out. These guys are not built to play 5 minutes at a time and then go sit for 10 minutes of play and then come back in. That's not kind of most of their normal rotations and how they stagger minutes. I was arguing for Kerr to play less dudes, not more. I think it's impossible to play 11 guys in a 40-minute game and find any sort of rhythm, chemistry, anything like that. And at the end of the day, the rest of the world has gotten too good to just play around. And hey, you know what? Chemistry doesn't matter. Getting, these guys in the flow doesn't matter. No, it matters now. We saw it. Like, they almost lost to Serbia. If Jokic makes a couple threes, I think they lose that game. I was looking up that earlier. Him and Bogdanovic actually were 3 of 16 from 3 in that game. As bad as and as close as that was, it could have been even worse. And you talked about France missing some threes as well. So I just don't think they can play around with that stuff. I wanted to see him go to a 7-8 man rotation in the second half of the Serbia game. I would have been fine with that. So I don't think what Steve Kerr did, I don't think everything was perfect. I don't think it's an easy position to be in. I don't think it was egregious. Here's the other thing. At the end of the day, all these guys are great. And when you're a coach, you develop trust with guys. And I'm not saying this is Tatum's fault, but it just happens usually organically. And you default to the guys you trust, to the style of play, to the substitution patterns. People can disagree with it, but I don't think it was a slight to Jayson Tatum that some of these other guys were playing minutes and he wasn't. I don't think it was egregious. I don't think it should be this level of a talking point for me.
And honestly, like, I think it's kind of a slight to those dudes, like, also on the team who
Sure.
are fucking incredible basketball players, to be like, oh my God, like, this dude who, based on his play, didn't come in and earn it, right? He shot 39% from the field, 0% from three, averaged fewer points per game than Drew Holiday did in very similar game time. Like, I think it's kind of a slight to those guys to say, oh yeah, like Jayson Tatum, like, should automatically like walk into a spot. Like, you come in and earn it like everybody else does, I think. And for myriad reasons that we talked about at the top, I think it's very possible that Jayson Tatum was not at his best in this tournament, and that's fine. And we don't need to like overreact to it in any way, shape, or form.